Pray to Sri Ramakrishna to purify our hearts. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Stapakaya Chadharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stapakaya Chadharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya pratyormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying chapter 28 in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Here we have all the spiritual instructions meant to be practiced by the sincere spiritual seeker. If your goal is to reach God, if your aim in life is to see God, then you must follow these instructions carefully and practice them. In the last few classes, I have dealt with the subject how to get oneself free from the ego, the root cause of all suffering and misery. We had discussed sufficiently long enough. Today I am taking up another very important topic stressed by Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel. That is, inner struggles. You must be aware of what you are doing. That is the purpose. Sri Ramakrishna said to Adhar, a great devotee, he said, always keep your mind on God. Every word is important here. Not sometimes I keep your mind on God. No. To that extent, your journey in spiritual life is shortened, or is met with obstruction, I should say. The journey would be incomplete. When he says always keep your mind on God, that means your mind should be dwelling on the name of divine God. Then he says, in the beginning you must struggle a little. Later on you will enjoy your pension. So Sri Ramakrishna is suggesting here that everyone will have to struggle in spiritual life. Without struggle, you can't reach your goal. That's the idea. Ma manusmara tasmad yudhyacha. Lord Krishna says in the Gita the same teaching which was put in new form by Sri Ramakrishna. What Sri Krishna has said in the Gita is, remember me always, ma manusmara. Remember me always. Tasmad yudhyacha. Then fight. That's we have to do here. Struggle means fight. You have to fight. You have to fight. You have to win the battle. He said to a devotee, Sri Ramakrishna said to a devotee, all people are by no means on same level. It is said that there are 4 classes of people. The bound, the struggling, the liberated, and the ever free. So struggling, there is a class of people who are struggling for higher life. During the period of struggle, Sri Ramakrishna said, one should follow the method of discrimination. Not this, not this. And direct the whole mind to God. He said to another devotee by name Mukherjee, he told him, I am just giving the words of Sri Ramakrishna, what he has said in the gospel. Then I will start my topic on struggle. I am preparing the ground so that you are well set. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and there are some besides who have drunk it. Here Sri Ramakrishna is suggesting stages, different stages. Then he says, God can indeed be seen. What is more, one can talk to him. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna, who himself talked with Divine Mother. So you can believe 100% what Sri Ramakrishna had said. Not only that, he made his disciple to talk to Divine Mother, proving that one could talk to God. So, you shouldn't have any more doubt about that. You shouldn't have any doubt about the existence of God, first point. You shouldn't have any doubt about seeing God and talking to God. These are very important in your spiritual life. Very, very important. The first stage is the stage of the beginner. What he does? He studies, keep on studying books after books. I have read this book, I have read that book, this, that, goes on ad infinitum. And hears, studying and hearing, that's the first stage. Never conclude, he has studied a lot of books, he is a very great man. Great man from the point of view of studying the books, I understand. But what about the experience? That's only the beginning, Sri Ramakrishna says. Next comes the second stage, very important stage, that is struggling. Struggling. Your aspiration comes to test when you are entering to the second stage of struggling. During this period, what does he do? He prays to God. He meditates on Him. He sings His name. He sings His glories. He tries to keep his mind on God. That's the second stage. The third stage is that of the perfect soul. Once you have passed through the struggling, then you reach that third state where you can see God, you can talk to Him, you can have direct experience. That's the final result. Sri Ramakrishna tells there is another stage, extraordinary stage of the supremely perfect, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A devotee said to Sri Ramakrishna, "Sir, we follow the ideal of King Janaka." People are very fond of using the name of Janaka. Do you know why? Because people always engage in some kind of work, They want to philosophize it. They want to put Vedanta into whatever work they do. You must call it yoga, then they become very happy. Sri Ramakrishna says, mere words don't make a king Janaka. Have you studied him? How much austerities he did in solitude. King Janaka. That means how much struggle he did. Mark the point, struggling. I am coming to that point afterwards. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling you, do something first. What is that first? Struggling. Struggle in a positive way. Then you may become Janaka. Without struggling, you can't become Janaka. Janaka was a very great king, no doubt, a great karma yogin. His name comes in Bhagavad Gita also. And Sri Ramakrishna gives an example, very nice example. You see, a man writing English fluently. I am all telling the words of Sri Ramakrishna only. Now, I am on the topic. A man is writing English fluently, but could he do that at the very start? No. Because probably he was the son of poor parents. He was cook in a family, and his meals he could earn by his service. He had to go perhaps through a lot of struggles with his studies. It's after all these efforts that he can now write such fluent English. Struggling. A music teacher used to come to our home when I was a boy. He used to sing very well. And I asked him casually, "Sir, how nicely you sing. How much practice we have to do to learn one song thoroughly?" He said, "You have to repeat the song at least 300 times. Then it becomes perfect." That means how much struggle you have to make. Don't think without any struggle you can become a great musician. Simply having a voice and simply opening the mouth, uttering something is not a singing. You have to follow all the fine sentiments in singing. Then only it becomes beautiful and melodious. Again, one devotee, his name was Priya. He said to Sri Ramakrishna, "Master, mind is not under my control." How many people tell this? Even now people keep on telling. Future also they keep on telling. Even the next creation also people tell. Mind is not easy to control. These questions exist permanently. Anyway, answers also are there. Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Well, there is such a thing as Abhyasa Yoga." Sri Ramakrishna's words, I am telling. Yoga through practice. That is struggling. Whatever you have to do repeatedly, it implicates struggling. Keep up the practice and you will find that your mind will follow in whatever direction you lead it. The mind is like a white cloth just returned from the laundry. It will be red if you dip it in red dye. It becomes blue if you dip it in blue dye. It will have whatever color you dip it in. Sri Ramakrishna is telling this idea. This idea has been given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena kaunteya vairagyena jagrihyate. Arjun, no doubt the mind is restless. I know it is very hard to control. Lord Krishna says. But then he said, by practice and by detachment, it is possible to restrain the mind. So, this is the preamble for my topic today. Struggling. So struggling plays a very, very, very important part in everyone's life. How did a person become a saint? Do you think he became a saint overnight by some magic? Somebody touched him, he became a saint? It's only after going through much inner struggle. Then he has finally won victory. Saintliness presupposes a hard inner struggle fought to the finish. That's the point. Everyone will have to pass through the channel of inner struggles, especially if you are trying it to live a spiritual life. These struggles vary from person to person. All the same, all have struggles of a more or less similar nature, or rather struggles issuing from the common human nature. Those who deliberately strive for spiritual self-betterment feel the rigors of this battle more than those who are devoid of spiritual aspirations. Even among spiritual aspirants, some are involved in these struggles suddenly with total unpreparedness and suffer a great deal. They are confounded by sudden blows. They fail to find any way out. After a vain struggle for a while, they give in, battered by those forces which they did not know how to control or counteract. Some spiritual aspirants, after an initial reverse, somehow learn the battle rules and gradually get the upper hand over the negative forces within. They learn through trial and error. They learn through a lot of wounds, but they learn well. There are some, through the grace of God and Guru, pass through these struggles more or less easily. Then, when they feel somewhat smug, they find themselves all on a sudden in the vortex of an undeclared war. Inner struggle being inescapable, it is necessary for every spiritual seeker who wants to reach the goal of life to know how to conduct himself in this unseen warfare. The question may be raised, since we are already involved in struggles, what then has to be learnt about them? The answer is, it is one thing to be somehow involved in a battle and quite another to know how to fight. If we are involved in it, knowing how to fight well, we have fair chances of victory. Otherwise, defeat is inevitable. How do we prepare ourselves for the battle? Next question. That means entering into spiritual life means you are preparing yourself to fight. You are preparing yourself for the battle. In the first place, you require to keep the whole phenomenon of inner struggles in perspective and to develop a proper attitude toward them. Secondly, inner struggles being facts of spiritual life, they have to be accepted as such in a non-sentimental, matter-of-fact manner. And we must clearly understand the character of the forces in operation. Thirdly, we must remember that no one can wish away or permanently avoid inner struggles. They cannot be ignored. Fourthly, inner struggles will have to be faced. One of the ways of getting the upper hand in inner struggles is to face them squarely and dexterously. That's the meaning of coming to battlefield. Fifth point, there is no way of flying away from inner struggles by change of place or situation in life. Wherever you go, they will follow you. Nay, you carry them inside you all the time. As inner struggles cause us much suffering, there are very often these struggles are looked upon as curses. Why I have to pass through all these troubles? Maybe I might have done some past bad karma, so I am having to pass through all these struggles. So many of the people, they think them to be some kind of curse. That is totally wrong in view of inner struggles and a self-defeating one. There is nothing pernicious in inner struggle, but something very precious. The unanimous verdict of all the mystics of the world is that these struggles are to be deemed potent blessings of God. Very important point. Many among us may not yet be persuaded to accept inner struggles as blessings. In that case, we may accept them as meaningful and powerful challenges to our manhood or womanhood. Challenges which, as true spiritual aspirants, we are found to discover them and accept them. We must also remember that it is not a compromise or a kind of harmony with our lower nature that we are aiming at, but conquest, complete conquest. If we know the technique of fighting, given the required patience, our victory is certain. These battles have to be accepted and gone through, not only for surviving, not only because they cannot be avoided, but also because there is no other way of growing up in spiritual life. Do you want to make any progress in spiritual life? Face the challenges, face the struggles. That's the point. Another question may be raised. Why at all have we to suffer this inner strife when our intentions are good and our aspirations for spiritual life are so genuine, sincere and irreproachable? This question may be answered from two different points of view. One from psychological point of view and the second from religious point of view. First we shall study the psychological point of view of this question. In general terms, the psychological explanation is this. Man is curious amalgam of dust and deity, of animal and divine, of the forces of darkness and the forces of light. Hence, in every human being, there are two natures, lower and higher. The lower nature of man is a fact of experience. The higher nature of man is also a fact of experience. The lower nature tries to assert itself and drag us downward. The higher nature also tries to assert itself and pull us upward. So there is constant strain between pull and push that is going on in everyone's life. Pulling and pushing. What we are trying to do when we deliberately take to spiritual life is to assert the deity over the dust, the divine over the animal, and the forces of light over those of darkness. This causes the inner strife. When we live the life of ever-increasing compromises and always submit to the demands of our lower nature, our strife is not so great, or maybe totally absent, because then our higher nature is more or less screened off from our awareness. Many people, they talk, when you speak of spirituality, oh Swami, let me pass through some experience in the world. When I get to 70 or 80 years, then let me take up spiritual life. My duties are over. I am at rest. My family is good. Children are good, well placed. They got good appointment, everything. Financially, everything is sound. Then I will take care of my spiritual life. He is simply living in dreams. He can't expect that way of life at all. But our extremely powerful lower nature, being all the time well fed and cultivated, that's why they have become very powerful, never gives up without a terrific fight to the bitter end. That is the lower nature. This is why at one stage, the greater the intensity of the life of the spirit, the more fierce become the inner struggles. There is no cause for surprise or alarm. If after taking to spiritual life you have found that your inner struggles have increased, this is as it should be. Don't be frightened by the struggles. Don't be frightened. The more the struggle, the greater the awakening. Provided we live through those struggles dexterously. That's important. A truly awakened seeker will welcome his inner struggles as logical concomitants of his efforts to reach the goal. To resent inner struggles is a wastage of mental energy and it hampers progress. So, this is how we should tackle the topic struggling. Entering into spiritual life means we are passing through the channel of struggles. Everyone has to pass through that channel. That's the point. And I will continue the topic next Tuesday. Page 550. About 5 o'clock that afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna was in his way to Calcutta. M. Mahendra Mukherjee and a few other devotees accompanied him in Mahendra's carriage. Thinking of God, the master soon went into an ecstatic mood. After a long time, he regained consciousness of the world. He observed, "That fellow Hazra dares teach me? The rascal." After a short pause, he said, "I shall drink some water." He often made such remarks in order to bring his mind down to the sense plane. Mahendra to M. "May I get some refreshments for him?" M said, "No, he won't eat anything now." Master still in an ecstatic mood. "I shall eat," he said. Mahendra took the master to his flour mill located at Hathi Bagan. After a little rest, Sri Ramakrishna was to go to the theatre. Mahendra did not care to take him to his own house, for the master was not well acquainted with the father. Priyanath, Mahendra's second brother, was also a devotee of the master. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on a cot over which a carpet had been spread and was engaged in spiritual talk. Master said to M and others, once while listening to the various incidents of the life of Chaitanya, Hazra said that these were manifestations of Shakti and that Brahman, the all-pervasive spirit, had nothing to do with them. But can there be Shakti without Brahman? Hazra wants to nullify the teachings of this place, referring to Sri Ramakrishna. I have realized that Brahman and Shakti are identical, like water and its wetness, like fire and its power to burn. Brahman dwells in all beings as the Vibhu, the all-pervasive consciousness, though its manifestation is greater in some places than in others. Hazra says further that anyone who realizes God must also acquire God's supernatural powers, that he possesses these powers, though he may or may not use them. Yam said, yes, one must have control over these supernatural powers. All laugh. Master said smilingly, yes, one must have them in one's grasp. How mean? He who has never enjoyed power and riches becomes impatient for them, but a true devotee never prays to God for them. Sri Ramakrishna washed his face. A smoke was prepared for him. He said to M, is it dusk now? If it is, I won't smoke. During the twilight hour of the dusk, you should give up all other activities and remember God. Saying this, he looked at the hairs on his arm. He wanted to see whether he could count them. If he could not, it would be dusk. About 8:30 in the evening, the carriage with the master and the devotees drew up in front of the Star Theatre on Baden Street. He was accompanied by M, Baburam, Mahendra and 2 or 3 others. They were talking about engaging seats when Girish Chandra Ghosh, the manager of the theatre, accompanied by several officials, came out to the carriage, greeted the master and took him and the party upstairs. Girish had heard of the master and was very glad to see him at the theatre. The master was conducted to one of the boxes. M sat next to him. Babu Ram and 1 or 2 devotees sat behind him. The hall was brilliantly lighted. The master looked down at the pit and saw that it was crowded. The boxes also were full. For every box there was a man to fan those who occupied it.
Sri Ramakrishna was filled with joy and said to M with his childlike smile, "Oh, it's very nice here. I am glad to have come. I feel inspired when I see many people together. Then I clearly perceive that God Himself has become everything." M said, "It is true, sir. Master, how much will they charge us here?" M said, "They won't take anything. They are very happy that you have come to the theatre." Master said, "It's all due to the grace of the Divine Mother." The Chaitanya Leela was about to be performed. It was a play about the early life of Sri Chaitanya, who was also known as Nimai, Gaur, Gora and Gauranga. The curtain rose. The attention of the audience was fixed on the stage. The first scene depicts a council of sin and the 6 passions. On a forest path, behind them walk Viveka, Vairagya and Bhakti, engaged in conversation. Bhakti says to her companions, "Gauranga is born in Nadia, therefore the Vidyadharis, demigoddesses, the Munis and the Rishis have come down to earth in disguise to pay their respects to him." She sings, "Blessed indeed is the earth, Gora is born in Nadia. Behold the Vidyadharis coming in chariots to adore him. Behold the Munis and Rishis who come allured by the spell of love." The Vidyadharis, Munis and Rishis sing a hymn to Gauranga and adore him as an incarnation of God. Sri Ramakrishna watched the scene and was overpowered with divine ecstasy. He said to M, "Look at it." Oh. Sages said, "O Keshava, bestow thy grace upon thy luckless servants here. O Keshava, who dost delight to roam Vrindavan's glades and groves." Goddesses, they said, "O Madhava, our mind's bewitcher, sweet one, who dost steal our hearts, sweetly playing on thy flute." Chorus, "Chant, O mind, the name of Hari. Sing aloud the name of Hari. Praise Lord Hari's name." Sages prayed, "O thou eternal youth of Braja, tamer of fierce Kaliya, slayer of the afflicted's fear." Then goddesses prayed, "Beloved with the arching eyes and crest with arching peacock feather, charmer of Sri Radha's heart." Then the sages chanted, "Govardhan's mighty lifter, thou, all garlanded with sylvan flowers. O Damodara, Kamsa's scourge." Goddesses chanted, "O dark one, who dost sport in bliss with sweet Vrindavan's gopi maids." Then chorus, "Chant, O mind, the name of Hari. Sing aloud the name of Hari. Praise Lord Hari's name." As the Vidyadharis sang the lines, "Beloved with the arching eyes and crest with arching peacock feather," the master went into deep samadhi. The orchestra played on, but he was not aware of the outer world. We shall stop here. So, when you come to Sri Ramakrishna, I feel you are coming to real spiritual life. To follow Sri Ramakrishna means to follow his instructions clearly, without compromise. Never yield to weaknesses. Never yield to lower nature. Don't get yourself overpowered by your lower nature. Never give way to your outbursts. Never give way to your emotions. Never do anything that degrades you to the lowest level. You must always be aware you are constantly being pulled down by lower nature. If you yield to them, do you know the result? It drags you to the brutal level. One becomes brute when he degrades in his lower nature. Be very careful. To come to spiritual life means you must always be watchful about your lower nature. That's the important message. Everything is for depression in the spiritual life at all. Everything you have to put into the basket of struggle. Struggle courageously. You will be able to come victorious. Ma manusmara tasman yudhyacha. Constantly remember me and fight. Lord Krishna says. So, let us fight our lower nature. Then we rise up to the higher nature. Then we see God. Simple. Any questions? Any comments? Observations? Yeah, in the first stage you become aware of it. Many people who have not turned to spiritual life, for them that question may not arise at all. What is lower nature? What is higher nature? Everything is me only. So me plays very important part. But here when you come to spiritual life, you cut that me. Cut off. Me means ego. Last 2-3 classes I have told you how to chop off the ego. Very important. And then you will see how glorious this spiritual life is. Any more questions? See, that means you must know your lower nature. That's the idea. Don't simply compromise. Don't say, oh, I am like this. No. So, you have to understand the anatomy of lower nature very thoroughly. What is that lower nature? That takes you away from God. That doesn't encourage you to go to higher life. That means that which involves you more and more in the activities which tend to degrade you from your real nature. Consequently, you will be under some stress and strain and suffering, all sorts of things, they come. First you said you have to forget Shadripus and so on. How can you forget them? You may not think, but they come. That's the point. That's the point I'm telling.
Yeah.
I will answer him. Then you. First is, that's called struggling. You don't want them, but they come and poke. They will interfere. You want to meditate, you want to see Sri Ramakrishna, you want to concentrate, you want to forget Shadripus, but they won't forget you because you yourself said vasanas and samskaras are constantly pulling you down. Why did they pull? Who gave that power for them to pull down? You yourself have given that power. How? Because of your own actions. All through the life, previous lives or whatever it is, you have fed them. I told that in the course of my talk. You have fed the lower nature to such an extent that you have made them strong, and then you want to get away, you can't do that easily. That's the point. So, you have to weaken them, first of all. You must make them weak. Then you can get rid of them. Before making them weak, simply if you put force, it won't affect, because they are more powerful. They know you are not strong enough. So when you are trying to uproot them, they uproot you totally. I have seen many people, they start up with spiritual life, they cannot cope up with struggles, they become worse than the people who live in the world. That's what I told. When you yield to lower nature, the lower nature is just waiting for that. Once you are dragged into that, they will push you downwards so that you go to the level of the brute. That's why you see so much of violence and crime and so many things going on because of the brutal level. There is no satisfaction for the lower nature. It wants to enjoy more and more, but it can't do that, so it forces upon the nature to get itself satisfaction. That's the way. So what I am telling, that's what I told. Abhyasa yoga, constant practice, constant struggle. That's called abhyasa, constant struggle. Vairagya and all other things are very good. They are all important. See why I am stressing upon the struggle, because I am pinpointing. To struggle, of course, you need vairagya, you need so many other factors, you need so many help also. To practice also, you need some other help. That's a different issue. But I am pinpointing so that you may not divert your attention on the topic of struggling. Yeah. You have to struggle. Without struggle, no spiritual life. No magic in spirituality. If there is any magic, it is not spirituality. That's what I want to say. I appreciate magic. Good. There is so many plays are going on in the world. Magic is also one of the play. That's all. How does the Guru's grace come? How do you recognize the Guru's grace unless you pass through the channel of struggle? Guru appreciates you. Guru shows his grace only when you are trying to practice it. If you simply keep on hearing until you, Swamiji, you use your yogic power, you touch my head and say, Swami Brahmananda ji, one of the devotees asked him that the same question. Do you know what Brahmanji said? Brahmanji said very clearly. He is a saint. He is a man of realization. He said, look, this moment, by touching you, I can make you free. These are his words. By just touching, I can make you totally free. But, he said, but you lose the joy of struggles. Joy of struggles. That's what Brahmanji says. Wait. When I stop it, then I will. So, joy of struggle. That means the Guru wants the disciple to struggle a bit. Not simply jumping. See, when the children want to learn something, the parents, they give him slate, pencil and show how to draw the figure, etc., and they enjoy the child trying to practice everything. But if you don't give room for that, simply you jump, oh, my child is a smart child, let him go to 4th standard. First 2 standards are not required. That's not good for the growth of the child. So, the struggling, that's why I told in my introductory talk, I said, struggling plays a very important part in spiritual life. Spiritual life means you have to pass through struggles. Struggle, meaningful struggle. In the world also they have to pass through struggles. Nobody is free from struggle. But what I am saying, there it is meaningless struggle. What you are struggling in the world, utterly meaningless. Stupidity, I should say. But if you struggle in the spiritual life, it is worth struggling. It's worth struggling. You are trying to rise up through these struggles. There, you are going down. In that case, the struggle is pulling you. It is pushing you towards downward nature. Where here,
The struggle lifts you up from the lower nature to the higher nature. So struggle has both aspects, negative and positive. The negative aspect is the more you run after the worldly things, that is negative aspect of the struggle. When you run towards God, when you feel more and more taste of joy in spiritual practices, that's called the positive aspect of struggle. Yeah, reason is perfectly all right. Nobody says you shouldn't have reason. Reason properly. That's all. That's what we want to say. That's all. That's the. Anybody else? Well, we shall stop 9 o'clock. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No time so set, no rite so needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy. How huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life one heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be 1,000 years. When my heart burns with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.